At 61, Wendy Williams, once the unshakable queen of daytime talk, now lives a life surrounded by silence, mystery, and tragedy. For decades, she was the voice of gossip, dishing out the hottest celebrity drama with unapologetic flair, drawing millions of viewers daily. Her sharp tongue, flamboyant style, and larger-than-life personality made her a cultural icon, a household name. From her syndicated radio success to the reign of The Wendy Williams Show, she built an empire rooted in honesty, vulnerability, and fearless commentary. But behind the glitz and glam was a woman fighting demons no one truly saw coming. Addiction, illness, heartbreak, and betrayal were hiding in plain sight, slowly chipping away at her health, her mind, and her independence. By the time the cameras stopped rolling and the audience applause faded, Wendy was left in a world that barely resembled the one she had conquered. Her voice, once booming across America, became slurred. Her memory faded. Her independence was stripped away. A court-appointed guardianship now controls her finances and major life decisions. Her family, once by her side, is now shut out, powerless to intervene. Fans are left wondering, how did it come to this? Where is the woman who once held the world in her hands? This is not just the story of a celebrity's downfall. It is a devastating cautionary tale about mental health, fame, betrayal, and a legal system that often fails those it's meant to protect. This is the heartbreaking truth of Wendy Williams, a woman who gave everything to the spotlight, only to be swallowed whole by it. And now at 61, her silence is louder than ever. Before she became a daytime television legend, Wendy Williams was a force on the radio, known for her bold opinions, fearless commentary, and relentless pursuit of truth. Born in 1964 in New Jersey, Wendy was the second of 3 children in a disciplined and academically driven household. But Wendy was always different, larger than life, energetic, and with a passion for entertainment. She studied communications at Northeastern University and quickly carved a path in radio, landing her first major gig at WVS in the Virgin Islands before climbing the ladder in urban radio markets like New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. Wendy's no-holds-barred approach made her controversial but unforgettable. She exposed celebrity secrets, sparked feuds, and wasn't afraid to ask the questions no one else dared. Her confrontational interviews, including the now infamous shouting match with Whitney Houston, cemented her as a radio legend. While others tiptoed around tabloid topics, Wendy dove headfirst, and audiences loved her for it. By the early 2000s, her syndicated radio show had millions of listeners, and TV executives couldn't ignore her influence. In 2008, The Wendy Williams Show debuted on television, with her signature purple chair, Hot Topics segment, and catchphrase, "How you doin'?" Wendy redefined daytime talk. Unlike Oprah or Ellen, Wendy wasn't trying to be inspirational or comforting. She was raw, loud, and unapologetically honest. Fans felt like they were talking to a friend, not watching a polished host. Behind the scenes, however, trouble brewed. Wendy was battling Graves' disease and lymphedema, both of which affected her energy, appearance, and physical health. She was also dealing with addiction, an issue she would later reveal had been a lifelong struggle. Her husband, Kevin Hunter, who served as her manager, was growing increasingly controlling, and their marriage had long been under public scrutiny. Still, Wendy pressed on, refusing to let illness, personal problems, or controversy silence her. Every day she stepped onto that stage and delivered entertainment to millions. But her tireless dedication came at a cost. Years of pushing through emotional pain, hiding behind makeup and wigs, and pretending everything was fine eventually started catching up with her. Slowly the cracks began to show, yet Wendy's rise was nothing short of iconic. She became one of the very few black women to dominate both radio and daytime television, 2 spaces historically dominated by others. She turned gossip into a mainstream genre. She became a cultural fixture, a name everyone recognized. Her life was loud, her brand was bold, and her throne in the entertainment world was seemingly unshakable. But beneath that powerful exterior was a woman growing more tired, more isolated, and more vulnerable than anyone could have imagined. Wendy Williams' marriage to Kevin Hunter was a 22-year roller coaster filled with control, betrayal, and a devastating public collapse. From the outside, he was her business partner, her protector, her husband. But behind closed doors, the story was darker. Rumors of his infidelity had followed them for years, whispers of abuse and manipulation becoming louder with time. Wendy stood by him through it all, until she couldn't anymore. In 2019, everything exploded. News broke that Kevin had fathered a child with his longtime mistress, sending shockwaves through the media and devastating Wendy. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was public. She was humiliated. She filed for divorce, ended his role as her manager, and began speaking openly about her emotional collapse. That same year, she revealed that she had been living in a sober house, fighting to stay clean after relapsing into addiction. It was a stunning admission, not just because of the honesty, but because of the pain etched across her face as she said it. Wendy had always played the strong one, but now she was breaking on live TV. And yet, even in the middle of her storm, she kept working. She returned to her show. She tried to maintain her image, but things had changed. Her health was failing. She fainted on air during a Halloween episode, a moment that became viral for all the wrong reasons. Viewers began noticing signs: slurred speech, odd behavior, unexplained absences. Rumors swirled about her mental state, her physical condition, and her ability to continue. The producers brought in guest hosts more frequently, and by 2021, Wendy was disappearing from her own show for weeks at a time. Fans were confused, concerned, and desperate for answers. But none came. Eventually, the show was cancelled in 2022, after 13 successful years. Sherry Shepherd took over the time slot, and Wendy's throne was officially gone. The end of the show wasn't just a career blow, it was the loss of her identity, her purpose. Wendy, who had spent decades crafting her legacy, was now slipping away in full view of the world. In 2022, Wendy Williams' life took an even darker turn when financial institutions and courts intervened in her affairs, claiming she was no longer mentally fit to manage her own money. It started when Wells Fargo froze her accounts, citing concerns of financial exploitation. Wendy's legal team insisted she was being unfairly targeted, but the court appointed a guardianship that gave a third party complete control over her finances and major life decisions. From that point forward, Wendy was no longer in charge of her own life. Her family, including her only son Kevin Jr. and her brother Tommy Williams, claimed they were being blocked from contacting her. They said she was isolated, unreachable, and surrounded by people who didn't have her best interests at heart. The public began to speculate, was Wendy truly incapacitated or was she being silenced? In early 2024, the public got a chilling glimpse into Wendy's current state through the Lifetime documentary, Where is Wendy Williams? The footage was heartbreaking. Wendy appeared thin, confused, and disoriented. She slurred her words, repeated herself, and at times didn't seem to know where she was. Fans who had followed her for years were stunned. This wasn't the sharp, witty woman they remembered. This was someone lost. The documentary raised even more questions than it answered. Who was really behind the guardianship? Why were her family members shut out? Was she receiving proper care? Or was this another example of the system exploiting a vulnerable celebrity? Britney Spears' conservatorship case was still fresh in people's minds, and Wendy's situation seemed eerily similar. The public outcry grew louder, but nothing changed. Her promised podcast comeback never happened. Her once vibrant social media accounts went dark. The woman who had made a career out of speaking boldly had been reduced to silence. It was as if she had vanished in plain sight. Wendy's brother tearfully pleaded in interviews, saying he just wanted to see his sister to make sure she was okay. Her niece said Wendy wouldn't even recognize her if they met now. What had started as a health struggle had spiraled into a full-blown tragedy, unfolding in real time, with no one seemingly able to stop it. The tragedy of Wendy Williams is not just her physical and mental decline, it's how it was allowed to happen so publicly, so painfully, and so preventably. Wendy wasn't just another talk show host. She was a trailblazer, a pioneer, a woman who made a space for gossip, pop culture, and real talk on daytime television. She changed the game, opened doors, and did it all while battling demons the world never fully understood. Her career was one of relentless drive, creativity, and connection. She gave her audience raw honesty, sometimes too raw, but it was real. And for that, fans loved her. But now, as she faces this heartbreaking chapter, that same audience is left feeling powerless. The guardianship continues, the family remains at a distance, and Wendy's voice, once so loud and clear, is now only heard through whispers and documentaries. The legal system that claimed to protect her has instead locked her away from those who love her most. It's a devastating irony that the woman who made a career out of speaking her mind is now being spoken for. This story forces us to ask hard questions about fame, about mental health, and about how society treats women, especially black women, when they are no longer useful, no longer profitable. Wendy deserves better. She deserves dignity. She deserves a legacy that isn't defined by her downfall. And most importantly, she deserves a chance to be seen and heard again, not as a shadow of her former self, but as a human being fighting for her life. For fans, the call to action is clear. Don't look away. Don't forget her. Demand accountability. Demand transparency. Wendy Williams may no longer be on television, but she is still here. And her story, her pain, and her legacy matter,